I would like to start by thanking everybody for joining us here today. I am Ruchi Pardal, SVP Growth and Innovation at ResultFirst. I'm very excited to have you all here. Just to set the note here, in 2025, SEO isn't just about rankings anymore. We all know that buyers are starting from AI. We all don't do Google now, we do chat. And that's where recommendations happen. And those recommendations, fortunately or unfortunately, are deciding who gets the visibility and who gets the revenue. That's why today's chat matters. We are going beyond theory to focus on what's actually working for growth teams right now. And to help us unpack this, I'm joined by two incredible leaders who've been right at the center of this shift. Let me introduce them formally. Starting with Amir. Amir Alsayegh is the SEO lead at Crocs, and he's worked on various projects at Zappos, Live Nation, and Shopify. I first met Amir during a podcast on international SEO and was instantly struck by how clearly he explains complex search systems across languages and markets. He brings a rare balance of strategy and execution with deep insights into how AI is reshaping global search. Beyond that, Amir is calm, thoughtful, and incredibly generous with his knowledge. It's a privilege to have him with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Amir. Oh, sorry. Welcome to the webinar. We did the podcast together.
Thank you so much. It's really good to be here.
Yeah. I mean, Donna, I'm sure she already called out. She's been doing so many keynotes, quite popular in her space. She is leading the global SEO strategy and operations at Lenovo. She's a Landy Award winner, author of Feeling Seen by a Machine, and host of the Feeling Seen podcast, where she explores the intersection of AI, SEO, and human behavior, especially through the lens of neurodivergence. What I love about Donna and makes it such a gift of having her as a guest and a dear friend is her human-first approach. She's deeply curious about how real people experience search and how we can build systems that serve them better. I'm thrilled to welcome you both today.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was like the best intro ever, Ruchi. I do appreciate that. For those out there listening to that, I'm just a human being that does SEO and has an interest in doing the best user experience. But I sounded amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, just to kick off the conversation, a question for you, Amir, here. We all hear about, intent, and it not being, just when AI came in. This has been something around in the traditional SEO that we call it, the one that we've been doing for Google. But what does intent even mean in an LLM world where users aren't typing, but full natural questions are coming up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's two things that come to mind with that. These are new platforms, right? And it's something that I have to kind of remind myself as we start looking at the data, as we start forming our strategies. Yeah, I think that the intent kind of shifts, and you started out with a lot of people using it for research, a lot of people using these AI platforms for their generative capabilities, doing a lot of cool things, but I think nobody has landed on this is the perfect use case for these AI platforms. And so with that, I think that when we look at user intent, we should focus on what questions are users answering for themselves, what information are they gathering, and how can we kind of present that information in meaningful ways to the users themselves, whether it be in the AI platforms, on the site itself, or in any way that a brand is touching the user, And so, yeah, I think that, when we see the data, especially coming out of a lot of tests, and a lot of big brands are really doing cool tests in the world of AI, the user intent is fluctuating a lot. We see a lot of people doing like top of funnel focus, a lot of like research on new products and new brands and that sort of thing, all the way down to the conversion of just why should I buy this one product? Why should I choose this one brand? So the two kind of things that come to mind is how much user intent has shifted, especially over the last year. And yeah, just a focus on flexibility. I think that these systems, and we have to remember the way that they're designed, they're not information retrieval systems, right? The purpose is to generate results that are personalized, that mean more to the individual user asking the question or inputting, whatever the query is in these AI platforms. They're not search engines, they're meant to be some type of personalized experience. And the variety of the responses and the variety of the search intent that you see coming out of these AI platforms is kind of a keystone of the technology itself. So yeah, it's something that I don't have a firm answer. It's I wish I could say, oh, 100%, people coming from ChatGPT, they have this user intent. It's great. We have this strategy built out for it. I think it's a lie. I think it's a lie that, you're hearing too often now. And yeah, I think we'd be doing a disservice to the folks in our industry to say that we have user intent in the AI world figured out, because it's just not true.
Interesting. And, when you say this, there's so much hype, like you mentioned, everywhere. People are trying to just pick up one sentence and write about it, whether it is deep enough or experimented or there is data backing it. It just becomes, like wildfire and everybody starts talking about it. But what's actually happening underneath those layers and how is it eventually converting into revenue is still a question that a very few people have been able to answer this. Donna, on the same note here, we're looking at LLMs reflect neurotypical norms and how they deliver answers. How can growth teams account for bias in AI search when measuring performance?
Yeah, very good question. And I actually want to go back to what Amir was saying about personalization and loyalty, right? That's a gold star for everybody. How do we make people come back? How do we personalize the journey for them? So I've been in SEO for longer than I care to remember, but once it goes past a decade, it's a long time, right? Um, and I very much at the mindset at the beginning, optimize for the machine, optimize for the algorithm. Um, the mind shift has definitely changed with AI. All right. You had this journey instead of a keyword, it's a conversation. Instead of a one visit, it is multiple. We typically across the industry try to go after personas too, right? And it's easier to go after a persona with a buy media because you can target audiences and all sorts of things. What the LMMs have allowed us to do is really start to understand our people. There's tools where you can see the prompts, you can see the answers, you can see they asked a question today and came back tomorrow with another. They have a project and all sorts of things. And I didn't go into looking at LMMs around neurodiversity or neurodivergent or anything like that. I went in to try and understand why people use the LMMs. Because, I mean, people know the stories, right? It got hacked. Put glue on your pizza that came up in Google. It hallucinates. It gives you broken links. It's annoying and all sorts of things. But when you start going into it, it's a whole extra level of personalization, which is more of a neurodiverse thing. People who are neurodivergent tend to be more loyal to a brand if you give them their trust, and that's what we're seeing with a lot of these LMMs. It's the loyalty because they're a machine, and that's what my whole thing about feeling seen by a machine. It understands me. I can have a conversation over a product for like 3 or 4 weeks till I buy it, but it knows what I've already asked, what I like, what my preferences is. So it's a whole new dimension to our marketing tactics. In the past, it would be depending on who you are, it'll be the stay-at-home mother, the IT manager, the student, or whatever the persona is, right? Now, this gives us the ability with the information and everything out there to start understanding the intent, the pain points, where people get stuck, where you lose them in the journey, right? I mean, give you the example of Crocs, right? I don't know too much about Crocs, but I know I potentially could ask questions about return and all sorts of things, but I also might want to ask questions about sustainability and all sorts. Well, if you're a traditional marketer, you're about the revenue. You don't necessarily think about the sustainability, right? Lenovo as a brand does a ton of good work out there. And as a shopper, I want to know the product I'm buying is not only good within my budget, is going to do what I want, but I'm buying it from a respected company. And for me, the respect might be sustainability. It might be give back to the community, or maybe I don't care about any of that. But as SEOs, we don't necessarily look at that, but the LLMs are now giving us that ability to not categorize just by a job type, but put into a bucket by really in-depth, intent-based modeling, which is highlighted a lot by neurodiverse people because they have this loyalty to things. I use ChatGPT. That was my original. I know there's a lot of other ones out there. I'm loyal to my brand. And that's the difference from traditional SEO, one word searches, to conversations and really in-depth intent. So cool.
Great.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love what you said there about the idea that it's a full experience, right? With these platforms, we have loyalty to our favorite AI platforms in the same way that we have loyalty to our favorite coffee brands and, our favorite local restaurants and that sort of thing. I think the reality that we need to quickly come to terms with is that these AI platforms are, in a way, a reflection of our human experience. And whether it's loyalty to the platforms themselves or loyalty to the types of answers that we're receiving, I think that we as marketers and especially SEOs, we need to be delivering a content experience that meets that human nuance. And whether it be focusing on, what is it about the brand that people could care about, it's also just meeting the user where they are. We have our leadership actually just said this the other day. There was a question that was asked in, a kind of a big town hall meeting. And it was, if we had a preference of where a user finds our product or purchases us, is it .com? Is it in retail? Where is it that we really prefer? And leadership gave a really great answer, which was meet the user where they want to be met. Give them the experience that they're looking for, because that's how you build things like trust and loyalty. And sustainability is a big part of that. It's, we shouldn't just be selling product. We should be making sure that we're, meeting the need of society, meeting the need of people in general. We have an amazing diversity in our sustainability and purpose team that does a lot of work with this. And yeah, I mean, it's cool seeing the stuff that they're doing, that it's not about selling products. It's exactly what you said, Donna. It's not about selling products. It's about just giving an experience to users that is meaningful, and meeting the need that society has right now, which is diverse. It's a lot. We're thinking, feeling creatures, and to be able to integrate that into our marketing strategies, into our content marketing, it's a really cool opportunity. And I think with AI platforms, we're getting more and more opportunity to do that.
Oh, Ruchi, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah,
there
sorry.
you go. Yeah,
SEO has
you do
always
it.
been about SEO has always been about, writing for humans, ever since. If I look at the evolution, we first started building websites for humans. Then Google search came in. And then we started, optimizing and building things for Google. And then again, the personalization for LLMs, although we can say that we are doing it for the LLM bots, but as an underlying truth, we are going deeper into the way humans are interacting and picking up the point that Donna just mentioned, which is personalization. And that to me is the crazy complex piece of SEO today, because with Google search or typing, we still struggle a little bit at times to find that right thing that you want, which is very specific and custom to you. Whereas in LLM, that boundaries are just not existing anymore. You give it any prompt, any chat, as many permutation combinations as you want, and it'll spin off an answer for you. Hopefully true most of the times. But in that space, as an SEO person, where you are managing your SEO content, where you're trying to humanize and personalize, what is your take, both of you? How are you guys including this personalization into your day-to-day and making sure that you're addressing that need of the user?
Amir, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. We're doing a lot of cool things, I think, when it comes to content marketing, especially, right? When we're building content out, we're trying to meet the simplest need, right? Which is comfort. And that's really big for our brand. And I think it speaks to like a really base human need that we try and bring everything back, right? What's cool about Crocs and I think what's cool about our brand strategy is that the idea is that everyone should feel comfortable in their shoes and feel comfortable in their skin and feel comfortable, in every walk of life. And it starts with shoes on the feet. It starts with, what's feeling between you and the earth. But it comes all the way down to what's the experience when you shop for these products? What's the experience when you land on a web page, when you consume content? And I think that there's a scale, right? And especially with these AI platforms, you find that the scale becomes wider and wider, where some brands have really robotic content, and it's very much just, hey, here are the pros, right? It's a bulleted list of, oh, unbelievable technology and durability, and oh, these shoes are gonna, solve every problem in your life, right? That's kind of cold and unfeeling. But then you have almost on the far end of the other side of the spectrum, you have kind of this like sycophancy, right? And ChatGPT was guilty of doing this, where it was saying, "Oh, well, I mean, our users are the best, and oh, what a smart thing to think, and what a smart question to have." What a brilliant question to pose to ChatGPT and that sort of thing. And I think brands are guilty of doing that too, where they say, "Oh, our users, I mean, you have the best taste if you're choosing this color," and that sort of thing. And I think that with brand marketing, especially, we need to strike a healthy balance. It's about meeting the user in an authentic, organic way, and giving them exactly what they need without giving them too much. So I think for us, one of the things, and this is true for a lot of the brands that have come to me in the past, and it comes down to just give the user what they're looking for, answer their questions honestly, and when possible, give real life examples. I think that's the best personalization that we can get, is things like user generated content and reviews, and what are the real world examples of this product and how it really benefited you or how you're using it, and how can we well represent that in the content.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, really good answer. And again, I kind of want to add to some of that too. I mean, traditional website marketing, it was your homepage, you came in your homepage, your UX team designed it, you followed a path and all sorts of things. But now with search in Google, you can come in any point, right? Any point is the first page that they see. And with the LMMs, it is even more, right? They can pick any page, they could send you a broken page. They're also now telling your story out there. So very much beginning in my career, I was very much focused on that get the click, very, very quickly get the click, right? That's what it was about. Until I had a personal experience with Lenovo. Now, I'm a brand advocate. I love the brand and all sorts of things. All my kit is Lenovo. So about 12 years ago, I go on the site to buy a desktop, right? And I buy this desktop, but at no point does it mention anywhere about the network card. But I'm like, wait, who buys a desktop without a network card, right? And sure enough, it came no network card, no Wi-Fi card. It was a standalone desktop, which was just crazy to me. And then again, we're a Lenovo family here. My child needs a new battery, a new charger for his laptop. He goes on our site and he can't find it anywhere, right? And I come home to him have buying it on Amazon, right? Because he could not find our product on there, and it literally was a total mind shift for me, and also for a lot of my team. It's like we've been going after the click, after the keyword, but not after the user, not after the intent. And so we've been trudging along for like last 10 years doing this and doing it well. But now, with the LMMs and the ability for the data and the information, we're now the biggest research team in any company that nobody knows about. We have pretty much real-time data, and we can tell what people are searching for And it's the old traditional, I need a laptop. Oh, that didn't get me. I need a laptop for a student. Oh, that didn't get it. I need a laptop for an engineering student. Well, instead of having those as singular, now you can see that journey. So definitely, and I know I've kind of gone completely off point here, but your SEO team has changed, right? Their growth, but their research. We have data, we have real-time data, or virtually real-time data that we can see. Privacy rules doesn't allow the keywords to be passed, but we can see what they're coming in on. And that makes SEO now a bigger play in marketing and how the business works, right? Because we have all this data, but we need the other parts of the business to help us build it. You're no longer an individual, you're a village coming together, if that makes sense. And that's the mindset that brands, whether you're small, whether you're big, needs to take on board. SEO is not a traffic driver alone anymore. It's the people that can help identify the pain points and the people that are coming. So huge
Very
person.
I love the
interesting.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love
Yeah,
that so much.
very.
For those that are in the audience, like, go to your SEO team and thank them for the amount of research and data that they're collecting. It's because, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I think we've become this, we've been pigeonholed into it's keywords, it's tech SEO, it's code meets marketing, and that's not really true anymore. It's more about, hey, listen, we collect data on how users are organically discovering your brand. And that's kind of invaluable regardless of what channel you're coming from, regardless of, what project you're working on. And so, yeah, go out and thank your SEO teams.
Yeah, that's great insight and a very good take on here. Just addressing the same point. You mentioned, the shift happening. The traditional measurement KPIs, I would say, are still pretty much the same in a bigger part of the world. People are still evolving, adapting. Everybody's trying to get on LLM. All brands want to be visible. But I think there's still that missing point, which I would love to hear from the two of you because you guys have cracked it, which is what are the missing steps in turning that visibility into actual revenue? What is it that you guys, yeah,
I'm gonna go this one first.
yeah,
So my biggest piece of advice is think small, not big. And I'm going to explain that, right? If you're a brand, it doesn't matter if you sell shoes, laptops, cars, or whatever, there's often this overwhelming thing. I have to be number one for laptop. I have to be number one for shoe. I know I have to be number one for book, right? But that isn't necessarily what you need to be number one of, because that person who's searching on those, they're not there yet, right? And if you win them on the word shoe, but then you don't have the experience or the content or the journey to get them from shoe to buy on your site, then you're lost, right? You've lost them. You've got that first time here, they didn't get the answer. They're not sure what they're looking for. They'll likely not come back. If you reverse cycle it and go small, right? And so now instead of shoe, you go shoe for walking on the beach when it's wet that I can wash in the drying machine, right? You now have a search which is 10 searches rather than a million searches. And I don't know what the search volumes would be on it. But when somebody is that so committed with so much detail about it, then that's got a way higher level of conversion. So that's why I say go small, because those are the ones that are going to convert then. But then it's like a reverse pyramid, right? So you had a very small bit and you work down. And as you win on each of those, they actually become your story. So maybe that was enough for one person to buy your product, but another product, they wanted to know, is it good for on the beach? Can I put it in the dryer? And will it last 10 years, right? Did you make it sustainably? So you start answering all of those smaller niche questions. And in the end, you've answered every question, no matter which combination that they want. You don't necessarily have to have it front and center on your website. You don't necessarily have to front and center on your products, but it's how marketing, how your leaders talk about your brand, all of those things add together to make the story. And you start small and eventually you'll get big. So, if that makes sense. So, okay.
Yeah, I think it's perfect context, and it's something that I have to constantly remind myself of, is that, the big picture will come, right? By starting small. I think that's great advice. And I'm almost reeling, Donna, because I just, it just clicked, what you said just clicked in my head of just like, man, yeah, we've almost been doing it backwards for, even longer than these AI platforms have been around. We're so focused on those big rankings, ranking number one for shoes, ranking number one for laptops. The reality is people don't really always search that way. They're adding nuance. They're adding their own personalization into these search queries. And we're seeing it with search engines even 5, 6 years ago. We're seeing it even more so with the AI platforms. It's very conversational. It's very personal. And so again, like, why don't we deliver that experience to our users and start as small as the problems that they're trying to solve in their lives, which is sometimes as small as, hey, listen, I want to garden more, and I need a shoe that can easily wipe off and clean, and that sort of thing, and can get wet and can get muddy and that sort of thing. And it's kind of a small problem, but let's solve that problem, and let's kind of move out from there. And then eventually that turns into revenue, that turns from visibility into value. And yeah, I think that a lot of brands, and we're certainly guilty of this. A lot of other colleagues that I've come across and chatted with are guilty of this. They go after that big fish right away. It's the first thing that they do is, how do we rank number one for our big keyword, the one with the most search volume and that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think it's a miss. I think that to Donna's point, we need to start small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it only might be like 5 searches, right? But if you solved one person's problem, right, they're now loyal to the brand and they're more likely to convert. It may on a chart, when you walk in a room and go, hey, I'm number one for a search that gets 5 searches, may not have the impact. But if the conversion on that search is 10x what it would be if you got more traffic, it makes sense. So, I mean, and this is a huge opportunity. I mean, we're both fairly big brands, right? So we have things, but a lot of these people on the call, which I'm very pleased they joined, maybe you don't have that opportunity. But it's actually, if you start small rather than big, there's so less competition in those, because bigger brands aren't looking at it that way. They're looking at a much bigger picture, or maybe your competition is looking at a bigger picture. So it's actually a really great way to build traffic, momentum, mid-funnel, awareness, and everything at a much easier level of stuff. I mean, SEO can be easy. You might get lucky. It can be really hard, and it can be really frustrating. And especially if you're just starting out, right? Go for some of those really not highly competitive keywords. When you're looking at the numbers, you'll win earlier, you'll convert more, and then 20 years later, like me, you'll still be doing SEO because it's addictive. So
Yeah. These, that got me to thinking, yeah, even the evolution of user behavior here, like you said, go small, and you guys picked up examples, specific examples, like muddy shoes or beach shoes. I remember, and that's very funny. The other day I was evaluating, and just a thought came across. We started by searching with a single word in Google. Then everybody started talking about long tail. And the other day I was working with a prompt, and I don't think it was less than 1,000 words that I was trying to put in everything, every detail that can go into it, defining what I want and what users would be putting in. So defining your niche, going deep into it, building authority, I guess, is where, you are mentioning that the actual revenue will start converting, because you then start really talking to your customers and solving their problems and giving them the answers. One of the other downsides, that a lot of people in the SEO industry, I believe, are struggling is the no click or the zero click, or, the clicks are going down. My question here to you guys is, if people never click when they find answers in LLMs, what are the new signals of trust and authority that marketers need to measure? So,
Amir,
Donna, you may go
you or
first.
me?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get the first.
Donna, go first.
So I kind of liken it to traditional SEO, right? We know when other programs run or events happen or somebody says something, SEO picks up, right? There's a big event, a big product launch, paid media or whatever. It impacts SEO because it's an awareness play, right? People
Yeah,
come and search on it. Um, I don't hate the zero clicks. Actually, if the one of the reasons I kind of align it to those other programs, even if they don't click on it, even if they never come to the site, I got in front of them. I'm like an annoying display ad, right? That's kind of how I align to it. It's there, it's helpful, it made me think. I didn't click on it, right? There's studies over the years that display advertising is one of the biggest impactors of SEO because nobody wants to click on a display ad. Display ads have terrible ROIs. Nobody wants to run it, but it's subconscious. You see it on the screen, this logo, this product, and stuff like that, and you don't trust it because it's a display ad. So instead, you go search on it, right? Well, I see the zero clicks, the AI overviews, the LMM, stuff like that. If they don't have a citation, as an awareness play, right? It's telling your story. Maybe they don't click on it, but it's like that annoying display ad. They saw it, it's in their brain. They're either going to react on it now, they're going to react on it later. If it wasn't very good, maybe they react on it never, right? But zero clicks, I think, is incredibly healthy for a brand. But I consider it more of a mid-funnel awareness play. So if you're going into meetings and you show impressions and it's like, hey, what does that get me? It gets you mid-funnel and it gets you awareness. And that's what LMMs and AI overviews get you. It's telling your story. They might not react on it today, but you've planted the seeds in their minds. So,
yeah,
so
Yeah, I think it's hard to balance this, right? As SEOs and, especially as someone who's responsible for this channel of growth and responsible for like a whole traffic driving sector of the business, it's hard to look at those metrics and say, I don't care about clicks, right? Like I wish I could stand in front of you, everyone, and say, oh, I don't care about clicks. We're beyond that. I'm cool as a cucumber kind of thing. But it's a lie. You see those clicks go down. You see, a week in which you get a little less clicks and a little more visibility in AIOs, and it can't help but make you wonder, are we doing something a little wrong? Should we be doing more to be capturing that traffic? Um, but yeah, there's almost two things that, I feel like the guy from Memento, if anyone's seen that movie, really, really excellent movie. But yeah, I almost need tattoos, just I wake up and get the reminder of like the clicks don't matter as much as you think, and you look at the other arm and it says, traffic isn't the only thing that matters right now. And I think that that's what we have to remind ourselves. They're not new users, and this is something that we've been having a lot of internal conversation about. There's no such thing as an organic traffic user, right? Like it's the same. There's no organic traffic user. There's no paid search, paid social user. It's all the same group of people. And sometimes it's the same people doing multiple things before they're interacting with your brand. So, it's not like if we lose those clicks in organic search and we have a zero click search result, that those users are just lost into the ether, right? Like they're not clicking on anything, they're not doing anything, they're just lost within that one search result. It's just not true. they might be finding your brand via paid search, via paid social. They might be coming back on an advertisement. As long as you've met their need and answered their question, they're likely going to interact with you and build some type of trust and loyalty, and ideally a conversion. You're going to get that revenue, or you're going to get that meaningful engagement somewhere else. So it's not necessarily always about traffic acquisition. Sometimes it's just about brand ubiquity, right? Like the example that comes to mind is I've never been to the Lamborghini website. I've never driven a Lamborghini, but I know that they're damn good cars. I don't necessarily need to drive one. I don't need to click on the site to know everything I need to know about Lamborghini as the brand and the products that they have, which are top tier. They're excellent. They're well manufactured, all that good stuff. And so I think it's more about brand ubiquity, and it's more about building that loyalty, that trust, that authority, all of the lessons that we've known as SEOs for a really long time. So do more of that. And as long as you're meeting that need, the rest of it, revenue, traffic, you name it, will follow.
Interesting. And if I ask, you guys, basis your experience in in your individual roles, and you were to define and craft a user journey that originates at AI conversations today, which is where I guess, more and more conversation is moving. I see my own experience. I don't think I pick up Google to find things more. My first instance is, let me go to ChatGPT or, Gemini or whatever somebody's using. So for me, or a typical user, when you're designing a customer journey that starts in an AI generated snippet and ends in a conversion, how would you pan out that and design the journey for anybody? Amir, if you want to go first.
I'll go first.
Oh, you okay?
Whichever.
Please, go ahead, Donna.
Go ahead.
So here's a lot more difficult. I mean, incredibly difficult. If you'd have asked me 18 months ago, I would have said there was a freight train coming. People weren't going to come to your website anymore. They were going to buy in these LLMs. I don't necessarily believe that theory anymore. And that's over time and things. But now what I think is we're going to have two universal pillars, right? The LLMs or the AI overviews or whatever it is going to be your research engine, right? This is where you go to find answers. And then search should honestly be now your buying pillar, right? This is where I go to research it. That's where I go to learn about your brand. It get informative. And then I go back to traditional search to go buy. Now, will that be the same in like 3-5 years? But I think I've told you this, my analogy before about this. So we have a more expensive product, a Lamborghini, sounds nice to me, it's even more expensive, right? There are some people that are comfortable with buying those products online. And there are some people that want to touch those products before they buy a Lamborghini. I actually know of a story where somebody bought a house online. That person was clearly confident about it, right? But trying to get those two funnels, now with the pandemic, it moved online buying like ahead by 10 years because you didn't have a choice. You had to buy it online or you didn't get it, right? Car buying online has now increased. More premium products online is more increased. But we only got to that point because people had no other choice, right? So for them to now move from that no other choice to I'm going to choose to buy in a platform that tells me I should put glue on my pizza to keep the cheese on, I'm not ready to put my credit card in there yet. So that's what I think. Two things, and we as SEOs know this. We as marketers have to do this. We need to tell you, right? Yes, they may never come to your website, but they may never come to your website because you researched their product over in the LLMs and we didn't create the content. We didn't tell the story to be the story and the brand awareness there. So they never swapped over. And that's where I think is the biggest change from traditional marketing beautiful imagery, small bullet points, click to buy. Now you're going to need long form, lots of content, because that's being told to the LLMs. They're not seeing your fancy creative anymore. So I think that's how you get to revenue. But like you say, that goes back to being a village, not an individual. So, okay, yeah, Amir, I don't know if you want to add to that one.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I mean, you covered it perfectly. I think the other thing that I want to try and do more of, right? Like I don't necessarily have a really good answer for this either, but I think that traditionally we've always thought of user paths as a funnel, right? And that's old school marketing. That's it's always about funnelization. I think that now with these AI platforms that are doing a lot of the legwork for us, they're answering a lot of questions in advance of a click, in advance of reaching a product page. It's becoming less of a funnel and more like a tree, right? You have a starting point that you started interacting with a brand that could have been, via paid ad, it could have been via the AI platforms. And then you kind of find these somewhat asynchronous paths of answering your questions, whether it be, getting an answer from ChatGPT, whether it's, reaching a product page and then coming back to ChatGPT and asking more questions and that sort of thing. And so yeah, so we should try and create experiences that feel a little more fluid. So, if you're landing on a product page directly from an AI platform, how can you give a little bit of a call back to, hey, listen, this is who we are as a brand. Here's things that you might not have learned because you didn't start from a traditional top of funnel experience. I think that, yeah, we should be a little more flexible with our funnelization, with our user flows. Because yeah, too many, I mean, like B2B SaaS platforms are probably the most guilty of this, right? There's such a rigid funnel of this is who we are, this is the problem we solve, this is how we do it, this is the software, sign up now, right? That is such a rigid way of, describing something. And yeah, I just think that users are they're a little smarter, they're a little slicker now. And we should give them a little more fluidity with how they're trying to meet the need.
Yeah.
And so, Rusty, I know we are getting close to the question and answer thing. I just wanted to add something to this, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure people are out there going, yeah, it is fine for you're a big brand, right? You can do this. The introduction of LMMs leveled the playing field for everybody, right? The rules changed. It became the conversation, the honesty, the meeting the intent, right? And this is a great time to do it, because not only could you win in the LMMs, and everybody can win in the LMMs. Now, if you do it right, you'll win at traditional SEO as well. But as part of the journey and the transformation, you'll start learning so much about your shopper, right? What their pain points are, what they like, even down to the color of shoes that is the most preferences, right? Maybe you know what the color of the shoes are that you think. Maybe everybody buys red, but actually the people who really wanted was purple. They just never got to your site because they don't have it. So it's not about who made it, it's who didn't make it. And that's where the benefit of the LMMs is, and the information and all sorts. Go in afterwards, and so I'll call out to a gentleman who works for me on my team, and he made somebody do this. Go into the LMMs, put in what your product is, and say, I want to buy this in a generic format, and then see what it asks you back, because it does talk back to you. And that's your starting point. That's the questions that they really want to know. They're the questions you didn't know they really wanted to know until this point, right? Because the machine has learned what people ask. So level playing field now, fun times ahead, better user experience. So, because we know the intent. Sorry, Rusty, back at you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great detail. And for anybody listening, you've given such clear ideas and strategies and paths of going from visibility to actual revenue. I know we are on time for Q&A. But I would not do justice to the audience if I do not ask about your experience in a quick way on how neurodivergent ways of processing information give us the insight. But you've been, give us the insight into how AI is search differently than the traditional search. What is it that you see different?
So I can definitely do that. And for those who don't know, I am ADHD, right? Which means I think maybe differently and stuff like that. But I'm not that different. 1 in 5 people in the world identify as being neurodivergent. It's just a little bit. And I see in the chat, Sierra, woohoo, ADHD guy. It's ADHD month next month. So very quickly and very briefly on this. When I started using the LLMs, and it's ChatGPT is mine, right? I even named it and everything. I didn't understand my loyalty. I'm not a loyalty girl, right? I buy where it's the best deal. I don't really care about sustainability. I don't care if it lasts. I buy it because I want it tomorrow. I buy mostly on Amazon. I'm a 2 a.m. shopper because I'm ADHD and I'm not asleep. And then I end up with a bunch of parcels. I have no idea what's in it because I fell asleep after I ordered it. So I didn't really understand why I was attracted to the LLMs, and because they gave me bad answers and I couldn't buy anything. So that's why I really started digging into it. And we've become a world of pop-ups and chatbots, and you get on the sign and you sign up for a promo within 30 seconds, and the chatbots ask you if you need help and stuff like that. And the LLMs don't. They wait for you to ask the question. They don't throw a lot of stuff at you. They're clean and they're tidy. And ChatGPT has over 120 million users actively on it. And if you look at it, it's ugly. 10 years ago, everybody used to say, Amazon's ugly, right? It's just ugly, but it works. And it's the same thing. It's because it's clean and all sorts. Now I've started to really hate Amazon because now it's got pop-ups and AI things and all sorts of things. But it was just functional. It's a search box and a product. And that's what the LLMs are about. They're clean and they're tidy. So how do you take those learnings and transfer them over to your thing? I'll give you one more statistic and then I'll get back to you. There was a study out of the UK, and I can't remember who did it, but it was like 2021 that $18 billion of revenue was lost from neurodivergent people buying on the web because they just couldn't deal with it. They knew what they wanted. They were ready at buying. But then when they got there was videos and flashing and pop-ups and chat and all sorts of things. And they're like, boom, and shut, right? So I think that's also one of the things we as marketers can learn, right? LMMs are doing really, really well, but they're pretty ugly, boring, and plain. They're Amazon 10 years ago. Maybe we need to go back to being a little bit more boring and only have the information. So that
Very
was
interesting.
so
Yeah, no, very interesting. I was also watching the clock here, so we need to pick up
sorry.
Q&A. I know we are a little tight on time. There was great conversation happening. Just didn't feel right to cut it out. But for all those who are asking questions, we will, giving the constraint of time, we'll answer those. But if we are not able to answer those within the time, we will make sure that we personally reach out to you and get your answers back to you for the question that you have. I will invite Rids to help me with this. And maybe Rids, there was a question in the chat that I was just glancing around local businesses out there.
Yeah.
If you can, start off with that, because that was a very interesting angle that I was able to look at.
Yeah, I've been keeping a watch at the Q&A, and we obviously have some questions, and I would like to bring it up for our panelists. So I'll start with the first question. Dan is asking, I'm a local business, heavily dependent on Google local stack. Should I be worried about this AI shift, or does the old school SEO still work for me?
And I can take this one, Amir, if you want. We're not actually a bricks and mortar, but I do other SEO outside, and I do it for local voluntary groups and all sorts of things. So I have some experience of this and looked into it. Now, I don't think you should be scared of the LMMs right now. And why I say that, they don't really have a way to identify a location at this point, or at least match a location to a product or a shop. So the majority, when you get searches for purchasing online, unless somebody specifically asks for, I need Crocs shoes in this zip code, you're not going to be impacted there, right? I mean, I use LMMs for local events and all sorts of things, but for now, I would go with the traditional, follow the rules about getting the content out, answering the user intent. The LMMs will catch up. They will be able to geolocate and all sorts of things. If you implement on your traditional website the best practices for the LMMs, then you'll be ready there. But also remember, they might have to do different things from IP detection and stuff like that based on you, because maybe they can't do it. So make sure you mention on your pages, right? Best Crocs shoes in East LA or wherever you are, right? Make it as personalized as you can. One trick for local, and like I say, I do local stuff, is start also, maybe if you are a big brand on Crocs in East LA, talk about East LA, right? What's East LA about? Because maybe it isn't going to win on the shoes, but you're going to start showing up and resonating on those particular terms, which helps connect as well, make you local. But not a fear right now. But if you do the recommendations, best intent, you'll be ready when it is. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's a good question to ask, and I think that this comes up a lot, even outside of the local world, which is, the question that you end with, which is like, does the old school SEO still work? The short answer is absolutely. I think SEOs in a way are so well positioned to kind of capture this new era, because we've been doing all the right things for a really long time, which is creating valuable content, speaking the language of our users, meeting them in the way that they want to be met, and producing online experiences that answer questions. That's at its simplest core. The old school way was through keywords. The new school way is through concepts, and so, yeah, I think that the only thing, if you haven't already done this, and I'm sure that you are, is, like Donna said, add that experience piece. There is so much cool human experience stuff that we don't really hear about in the marketing world, because we get so caught up in marketing speak and advertising techniques and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're a local business, get into the weeds, listen to your users, reciprocate some of that knowledge back out into your community, because that's really what it's about. There's a local community that's looking for your services, that's looking for your products. And if you give them that experience, like you're in the room listening to them, you're going to rank better, you're going to perform better, you're going to get that traffic. The rest of it will follow. And that's exactly the same advice that Google has been giving us for the last 10 years. So yeah, I think do a lot of the same stuff that you've been doing, and you'll likely see success. Just make sure to keep an eye on this new technology, because it's a new format. It's not necessarily a new set of rules. It's not like the world has changed, drastically. It's a lot of the same stuff, just in a different package.
Interesting. Rich, I think we can take just one more question.
All right, so I'll just pick one more. So Jennifer is asking, how should global brands account for bias in AI-driven results? For example, when LLMs prioritize US-based sources over local market content.
Interesting one. So there's tons of bias in there, right? I mean, Google's been around 22 years, I think. It does it well. It's got good algorithms. It knows how to work it out. The LMMs aren't there quite yet. They know how to answer. They hallucinate. They don't have IP detection. All I can say is they'll get there. Google wasn't there at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, I never did it, but there was a ton of black hat things that you could do. You could absolutely do those for LMMs right now because a lot of people don't understand it. You could hack it, but in 18 months' time, your traffic's disappearing. Right for the user, right for the intent, explain your brand, be the story. When the LLMs catch up, you'll be there. If you're doing it for good local intent anyhow, and you're getting good results on Google, you're going to get those results in the LLMs. And the way I kind of like look at it, right? So for the last 18 years, Google's been that gold standard. You always went for Google first and stuff like that. Well, Google now became Walmart, and that's not in a nasty way, but it's everything for everybody. The LMMs now became Macy's, and I'm a Brit, so I don't know if that's the best posh store out there, but it seems like the next level up, right? It's more personalized. You have a personalized shopper, and it's all amazing. So it's just a new standard you have to reach to, that personalization and all sorts of things. If you win on LMMs, you're going to win on SEO, traditional, and overall, if you try to win on LMMs with a good intent, your experience is going to improve and your loyalty is going to grow because you really are doing that personalization. So,
yeah, and I think that the only thing that I'd add there is that bias comes from the input. And so that's part of the issue is there's just so much US-based input right now. So if you're a global brand, if you're, a local brand that's trying to participate in this global market, try and get ahead of it in the way that you would kind of like write a research paper, right? So it's very much so, hey, listen, we are offering this differentiating factor. We compare ourselves to this US-based brand. This is how we position ourselves within this market. And I think that you'll see some success from that, where you're almost stripping out the bias of the input, the data that's being input into these platforms. And you can say, hey, listen, we're better than this US-based service or this US-based product, and here are the reasons why. Or we're, in the same market, and here's some kind of differentiating factors between us and some of the other market, brands in that market. So yeah, keep adding to the pot. I think that the LLMs are only going to get better about, giving diversity in results and giving results that are more meaningful for their individual users.
So,
This is great conversation.
I'm just going to jump in. So I know there's a ton more questions out there. And Rushdie said earlier, reach out to us and we'd answer the question. No, don't do that. So let me tell you the best thing.
We will do this.
No, I think everybody on here can both hear me and Amir are incredibly passionate about getting it right for the user and the shopper, right? And honestly, if I got sent 100 questions, I would absolutely answer 100 questions. But here's my recommendation to Rushdie and everybody here. We're going to post this webinar online. It's going to be on LinkedIn, probably going to be a couple of days before it's out there. When it gets posted, come post your questions into the comments. I can answer, Amir can answer. Rushdie in her own right is an excellent SEO person as well. I appeal to him. Let's have the conversation there in LinkedIn and stuff. You'll get a quicker response, more people likely to respond to it. And otherwise, I feel my email is just going to go like, sorry. But it was an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed that. So everybody enjoyed. Sorry, Rushdie, it's yours. I'm going to let you close. You can see I do podcasts.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I completely agree. It's been a great conversation, some great insights, a very different perspective on some of the questions and ways people are thinking, right from going very small, which a lot of us do look at, but at the same time, your perspective that they're going to be two universes together that we need to get ready for is something which is very interesting. Amir, you mentioned such great insights into, how things are evolving and changing, and how you're bringing in that personalization into what you're trying to do in something which is as simple as, buying shoes, not as complex as buying, an electronic machine out there or buying a Lamborghini, but still bringing that value and touching people at their right core. That was great. Great conversation, guys. Thank you so much. Donna did a lot of my talking here, that we will be posting this online. We will be posting this online. Feel free to share. We would love to connect. I think that's open. And it was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Donna.
Thanks,
Thank you, Amir.
Thanks, everyone.
It was fun.